Home is where the heart is. It's our most valuable possession and the one place where we should feel safe. So what happens when it comes under threat?
It was like a volcano coming out of the toilet.
It was absolutely devastating.
And when disasters devastate not just your home, but your life.
If I'd have been in this kitchen when that had hit, I'd have been dead.
Everybody could have ended up down in that hole.
Coming up, one couple's quiet country close turns into a deadly minefield.
It's just like it was ready to explode. It had a heart attack.
A tsunami of sewage sweeps through a flat.
I felt absolutely sick. I just washing my hands and crying.
And a torrent of trucks are literally ripping a community apart.
He rammed and rammed and rammed and rammed to get his way through.
In Staffordshire, a couple thought they had the perfect life. But what opened up before them threatened to shatter their whole world.
Everybody could have ended up down in that hole as it was just opening up before our eyes. That was really a scary moment.
Phil and Helen Tester had dreams of leaving the rat race behind and putting all their savings into running a bed and breakfast.
We had never run a B&B before.
We looked at quite a lot, didn't we?
Yes,
So
all over the country.
They needed to fit our criteria, essentially, so we wanted somewhere that we could bring Helen's parents with us.
Yes.
But they had to be in a completely self-contained annex.
Helen's mum and dad jumped at the chance.
Helen rang us up and said, "We're going to move out. We're selling up and we're moving to set up a B&B. Do you want to come in with us?" We said yes.
After searching for months, Phil and Helen eventually found the perfect place nestled in the magnificent Staffordshire countryside. Within 3 weeks of moving in, their first set of guests arrived.
So we didn't have very long at all to do the place up because we wanted to make some changes. So we rushed around like mad things to do everything up. In fact, we were still hanging the big mirror over the stairs when our first guest turned up, like you do in these things.
Their first season was a rip-roaring success, and their investment appeared to pay off.
We basically exceeded all our expectations, all our targets. We had great reviews, we had fantastic feedback from our guests. So we were thrilled. At the end of our season, we were basically looking forward to building on that the next season.
Phil and Helen couldn't be happier. They put all £42,000 profit into revamping the B&B and treated themselves to a well-earned holiday. But before they left, they arranged for a builder to come and do some work on their driveway.
The wall that went all the way down the side of our drive, it was looking a bit tatty. It was looking a bit worse for wear, and we felt the best option was just to knock it down and start again.
After 2 weeks in the sun, Phil and Helen returned home from their holiday. But what happened next would quickly bring them back down to earth with a bump.
I don't think we'd even got out of the car, had we? And he was going, come and see, come and see. And he said, "I'm really sorry. It must be something I've done with the concrete. There's a crack in the foundation, so I'm going to have to dig them up and start again." And he came back 24 hours later and said, "It's not me. There's another crack in it."
Cracks had appeared in the wall along the driveway and were also appearing along the edge of the drive.
We just noticed very small cracks, but they just got bigger and bigger and bigger every day.
All of our grass was tilted and going down that way.
There was no huge collapse, it was just an inexorable slide.
Within a few weeks, the small cracks were now big cracks and had spread over the entire 40-foot driveway.
This is where it originally started, where the wall was being rebuilt. Underneath all this soil, etc. This is where the small, tiny hairline crack appeared. But now this whole field, all the way up to the trees, all the way down to the hair, is moving both down the hill and around our property.
We've also got some slabs there that look as though we've just piled them up against the side, but actually it's the force of the land moving in that direction that has forced the slab stones up into a V. But it's very, very upsetting to seeing a mess like this.
Regardless, Phil and Helen had to reopen their B&B, But little did they know the landslide in their driveway would be followed by something potentially far more deadly. A giant sinkhole.
It just got worse from then on in.
Your house is your pride and joy. Imagine if through no fault of your own, it becomes the local sewage works.
All the water's coming up through the plug hole, little tiny square cubes of things coming through.
I realised the bath started filling up with sewage. I felt absolutely sick. I just washing my hands and crying.
House-proud Theodosia was horrified when her bathroom overflowed with human waste.
It's coming out by the litres.
I thought, my God, it's not going to stop.
71-year-old retired hairdresser Theodosia moved into the flat of her dreams 5 years ago.
It's new and it's clean, and I'm a bit fussy. I like to keep it nice and clean, so I just love it. I have my family here every week, 2-3 times, the whole family, about 15 of us. I thought once I buy this flat, I will never move out. That would be my last stop.
Theodosia is very close to grandson Nikos and daughter Kiki, and still on good terms with her ex-husband.
All right, Mum.
Kiki was staying with her mum when trouble erupted in the bathroom.
I always keep my bath clean, and I looked in the bath, and all I could see is all this brown stuff coming out.
She's reached out to pick it up to show me, what do you think it is? I said, just put it down. I said, because I think I know exactly what that is.
It was bad, very bad. And within half an hour, it was over half full.
Oh, that is absolutely vile.
That is cool, Eleanor. That is cool. Straight away, I found the maintenance people. And I said, it looks like a sewage stuff coming out the bath. And he said, so, no, you should get a plumber because we're busy and it's Sunday. So, of course, I put the phone down. Then, 10, 20 minutes later, the bath didn't fill up anymore, but the toilet, it made a terrific noise. And then, when I looked, it was half full. It started filling up and filling up and filling up, and all of a sudden, it was gushing up. And it started flooding the flat everywhere. Then my ex-husband, he came, my grandson, his girlfriend, all of us, we was just having mops and towels. We was grabbing anything, bath towels, the lot, trying to stop it to go into the front room. But it was impossible.
I just walked in, noticed it was like a volcano coming out of the toilet, how bad it was, and it was just never ending. It was really bad, but traumatic, I would definitely say, and you could see she was visibly distraught.
It's full of shit from the sweeties. It's gone into my bathroom, it's gone into the bedroom, sitting room. And when I found them out, all they say you have to wait. And nobody wants to know.
Theodosia had to call the property maintenance company 3 times before a plumber came to help.
When the man arrived, it was too late, too late. Everything was ruined.
You think you've bought your dream home overlooking beautiful fields. But what happens when overnight that scenic land becomes a huge building site?
Didn't even ever think that something like this was going to happen. That next door to us was going to be this building site causing so much havoc.
We've gone from going out the back door, looking at a field, to now looking at a big, ugly fence.
Now we're this far on and the nightmare continues.
Andy and Dawn Drummond have lived in their secluded and pretty Cheshire home for 20 years.
When we first came to look at the house, it was idyllic, it was quiet. We had a perfect view of the field next door with animals running around. It's a cul-de-sac. We thought, this is it, you know, we found a great place to live.
Their home was right at the end of a small cul-de-sac in the village of Haslington. Right next door to their house was 3.5 acres of open fields. When they moved into their home, it was winter.
All I can remember is looking out and it was full of snow and there was a white pony and I was in my element. I was like, whoa, we've got ponies.
It was picture perfect. Over the years, they brought up 3 children here and enjoyed a quiet village life. Then, in 2013, a letter dropped through their front door that was set to change everything.
All of a sudden, we get a notification that there's been a proposal to build some houses next door.
44 houses were about to be built on their beloved field. And the only access to the site for the huge construction lorries would be through their cul-de-sac. Everyone in the village was up in arms, including neighbour Sally Fowler.
Our world was quiet, peaceful, pretty, and we wanted to stop them building on a field.
Their outcries fell on deaf ears.
We honestly thought that it would not get passed.
We still don't understand how it's been approved, how it got approved.
We're still gobsmacked.
Andy, Dawn, Sally and many other residents from the village spent months protesting against the plans. But they lost. Planning permission was granted.
We were seriously angry and hurt and very, very upset.
An official spokesman from the council said that there is an ongoing demand for new houses that needs to be met. 11 of the 44 houses are social housing for local people. They also say builders have dealt fairly with complaints from local residents.
Before you could breathe nice fresh air, now you're looking at a big fence, no views.
The pollution that comes off the site is a big issue, you know.
Not been able to have any windows open this summer because of all the dust. And there's been a lot of dust. Can't have the doors open. Not being able to have a barbecue.
Constant bleeping of the JCBs that are reversing in and out, in and out, in and out of the plots.
2 more years of this, no.
Their neighbour Sally doesn't recognise where she lives anymore.
So over this side we had fields and trees, and beyond that there are actually fields and trees, so your whole view was just countryside, and now they actually really quite overlook us. I really didn't think until those ones have gone up how much of impact those ones are going to make. Down here is not so bad, but we did have a lovely gate and hedgerow, and the horses came to the gate and the kids would walk up in the summer and feed them. And now we've lost all that. No horses, no kids.
Andy and Dawn felt trapped in their own home. But life was set to get much worse.
We can't stop it. It's happening. Something has got to give.
"71-year-old Theodosia had a nasty shock when a tsunami of sewage flooded her modern flat.
Oh, look at all the... Oh, disgusting.
That's where all the human waste was coming out of the toilet.
Oh, my God.
After more than 3 hours battling the tide of effluent with help from her family, a plumber finally arrived.
When the man started unblocking the thing, he says it's nothing to do with your flat. He says the main switch is blocked with everything in. He says, and because it was blockage there, everybody's stuff, it won't go down, and he was trying it back.
The waste from all 214 flats in the 9-storey block of flats was erupting into Theodosia's bathroom.
When he was doing the plumbing, he was just looking in fear, you know, how disgusting he looked in there. He said, I've never, ever seen in my life the stuff has been going down there from the flats. He was shocked because he didn't realize it was that bad. When I was saying it was bad, I don't think they realized. And it took 4 hours to unblock the toilet. All I've done is just cry my eyes out. I just didn't want to be here anymore.
Her family helped salvage her belongings from the flood of human waste, and it took the rest of the day to mop up the reeking mess. But Theodosia's nightmare still wasn't over.
The bedroom, it was soaked, the cupboard, it was soaked up with sewage, obviously, but we were still sleeping in there.
When that smell coming from a toilet, and we all know the excrement from the toilets and everything else, that smell is just embedded, and it doesn't go.
Disgusting. I felt dirty, I couldn't eat, and all I was doing is just crying.
She's so house proud. I mean, she's a little bit OCD. She loves everything to be spotless, and I think that's what broke her heart.
But it was another couple of days before the maintenance company came to check on her.
This bedroom, actually, you couldn't even walk in here from the smell. But, you know, she kept telling them that, and that she still had to sleep in here for 3-4 nights. It was just so horrible, and it's not healthy. So when the lady came, I actually specifically said to her, the one thing you will do today is you will get that carpet out my mum's room.
And then when they come to lift the carpet up, they went like that, and all of a sudden we had this terrible crash. And I thought, oh my God, what's that? And he said, sorry, lady, your wardrobe collapsed. And when I come in, I was crying. And he said, we'll have to dismantle the whole thing and just check it out. He said, it's not good.
As her wardrobe collapsed amidst a sea of sewage, Theodosia struggled to salvage what clothes she had left from being destroyed.
It was horrible, absolutely horrible.
It just wasn't stopping. It was one thing after another, and basically just ruined her flat completely and utterly, and given her a nervous breakdown, because she was on the verge of a nervous breakdown totally.
This what happened here, it made me ill. I'm on antidepressants, I go for counselling, and I'm just not coping.
Theodosia was compensated £1,500 for the loss of her clothing, plus her carpet and bath were replaced. But she still has a major concern.
When I told them about the floor, they said there's no need to be changed. They said, we're going to come and fumigate it. So
they just cleaned all your floor, didn't they?
Yeah. If I can afford to move from here, I would just move tomorrow, because I just don't feel happy anymore. But I don't know how I'm going to be able to do it. I have to wait.
In Somerset, the peace of this tiny hamlet was shattered when a lorry rammed through a home. Little did the owner know, her trucking troubles were only just beginning.
It's just happened again and again and again.
This beautiful Grade 2 listed property has been Caroline Cockman's rural retreat for almost a quarter of a century.
Basically wanted to move out of Bristol. We hunted around and hunted around. We'd looked at the particulars for probably about 100 properties, but we just kept coming back and looking and coming back and looking, and we were just hooked, basically. Just pure and simply because we loved the house, we loved the location. I think this is idyllic, yes.
It seemed Caroline and her husband had found their forever home, nestled away in the Somerset countryside.
It's a very quiet road. There's only 5 properties on here in total. Certainly in the first years, it was very quiet and problem-free. We would occasionally come home and we'd find there was a scrape on the wall or a bit of stonework, crumbs on the ground where things had scraped walls, or there's gouges out the stonework in the front. It's only really in the recent years that we've noticed the increase in the volume of traffic using the lane. This was an old grist mill here, and it was literally the lane to serve the mill. It had no purpose other than to serve the mill, so it was just big enough to get a pony and track down, or a horse and cart.
But in late 2007, this narrow single-track lane was to receive a surge in horsepower that would have a devastating impact on their home and their neighbours.
I heard the engine first of all, and I stepped out of the back door and into the courtyard. And there was a large builder's lorry with a big crane on the back, well and truly jammed in this narrow section here, facing towards us. And he got himself stuck, and he decided the only way to get out was to ram. And he rammed and rammed and rammed and rammed to get his way through. I got on the phone to his boss, because his phone number was conveniently on the back of the lorry, and was speaking to his boss at the depot and saying, listen to this, that's your driver. And the driver eventually burst through, took out both of these walls here, severely damaged the rendering on my house there, and came to here and took all of this wall out here on the corner on his way round, and then came to a stop there.
One trucker's momentary lapse in judgment resulted in months of rubble and rebuilding, costing an eye-watering £13,000 to put right.
These are listed buildings, so you can't just build it back with concrete and concrete blocks. It has to be done as per the original build.
For Caroline, this accident proved to be just the tip of a very big iceberg.
We've virtually got our builder on speed dial. It was horrendous.
In Staffordshire, Phil and Helen's booming B&B business was close to going under as a massive landslide was literally dragging their home and business into the ground.
It's very, very upsetting seeing a mess like this.
Geotechnical engineers were on site, investigating why the landslide was happening. And early one morning, Phil and Helen got a rude awakening.
They got us out of bed, said, you need to come and see this. And we were looking at a little hole, sort of 4 inches in diameter. And we were all stood around it, peering in, and we could see that there was nothing under the tarmac apart from water. And then one of the guys dropped his tape measure in, and he ran out of tape measure at 8 metres. So then we decided we'd step back a little bit, and then we realised afterwards that we were just stood on a couple of inches of tarmac. We were actually standing on top of the sinkhole. It very, very quickly then started to fall in, and within a few hours it was 2 or 3 metres, and at the end of the day it was the size of it is now.
Following the investigations, the couple awoke to a massive sinkhole opening up just 2 metres from their front door.
By the time it had finished, about 4 or 5 hours later, when it got to its maximum size, it was only about 6 feet away from the flat itself, so that was a concern.
As it opened up, it became apparent that the constructors could have lost their lorry, we could have lost people down there, Phil could have gone down there, my dad was out here as well. Everybody could have ended up down in that hole as it was just falling into the water and opening up before our eyes. That was really a scary moment.
A sinkhole is a hole underground which has been eroded by water. Some sinkholes can just cause the ground to sag, but others can have a catastrophic effect and need professional attention.
We were incredibly lucky that the engineers were on site when it opened up. By the end of the day, he'd had 2 lorry loads of stone delivered that had gone into the bottom to help try and stabilise it and stop it falling in. There were 7 lorries that arrived full of stone, 140 tonnes that went into the hole.
The B&B was shut down by the insurance company as it was unsafe to have guests.
This isn't just our business, this is our home. This is where we live. And so, yes, so our home has been under attack essentially from the elements.
Sorry. It's very hard to be positive in the face of so much. And we are determined that we are going to open sometime in the future. And it's just a question of getting through it, and somehow we will.
Finally, 6 months after the investigation into why there was a landslide, there was some news. All the tests carried out revealed that the landslide had been caused by a construction company who were building 2 new homes in a field at the bottom of their land.
This is where the excavation started. The builders wanted to build 2 houses. They had to dig down to enable the houses to fit at the right height. So this used to be a nice gradual slope down to the road, and essentially they've just dug straight down 30 feet. And you can see it's a very, very big hole. They spent an awful lot of time with a very, very large digger, just digging out soil.
We actually got the notification that the builders' insurers had accepted that their actions had been responsible for the landslide and that they would accept liability and pay to fix it all.
5 months on, and no work has started.
To be honest, I think we're assuming that the whole of, or most of 2015 will be written off. It's impossible to say.
We just don't know.
We
just don't know.
And as if it couldn't get any worse, there was a new twist in the tale.
In the course of all their investigations, they believed that the rear wall, the retaining wall, was inadequately built, and that should the hill behind us decide to go on the move sometime in the future, that the wall would not be of a sufficient standard to withstand any lateral forces of land movement behind us. Our insurance company have said it's not their responsibility,
It's not covered under our insurance, so we have to fork out those costs.
Getting the rear wall reinforced will cost the couple £100,000.
We haven't got that sum of money that we're being forced into trying to find, which could quite realistically bankrupt us.
They put everything that they had into this, and for them, it was their living, it was their dream.
For now, Phil and Helen have given up on their dream B&B. One of the most extraordinary acts of God the UK has ever witnessed, and it affected just one very unlucky homeowner.
I probably would have been killed.
Tony Tubb, a retired newspaper reporter, lives in Bexhill-on-Sea in East Sussex. He moved here with his wife in the 1970s when they found their dream home. Sadly, she passed away a few years ago.
It was the ultimate spot for me with my enthusiasm for sea fishing, and my wife loved the views, etc. Being a bit higher up from the beach, one could sit on the balcony and look straight out over the English Channel.
Such an idyllic seaside setting. But what was about to happen, no one could ever have imagined.
I'd been out for a couple of hours over in Hastings and St Leonard's, and got back about 9:45 at night, and went in, opened the front door, walked into the kitchen in the dark, and switched the lights on, or intended to switch, tried to switch the lights on, and nothing happened, and just mused what to do. Suddenly the smoke alarm started up. There was a certain amount of smoke suddenly, and that increased, the density of smoke increased to a worrying degree. And so I opened the front door, went back out. This is about where I stood with some neighbours, so everything was black and smoke alarms going off, and all hell let loose, really.
Tony's house had been hit by a huge bolt of lightning, and it had blasted a 4-foot hole in the tiled roof just above his bedroom.
Here is where the lightning bolt crashed through and set fire to the loft, and which subsequently burnt through.
The lightning struck around 9 p.m.
Well, I would have been sleeping here. I would have been simply 10 foot away from the lightning strike, so I probably would have been killed.
The effect of the lightning strike touched every part of Tony's 4-bedroom home.
Kitchen suffered some smoke damage. This wasn't one of the worst.
But nothing could prepare Tony for what he was about to discover.
There was a total feeling of emptiness. Everything had literally gone.
In Cheshire, Andy and Dawn's morning bird song has been replaced by the continuous and loud drone of a busy building site, as their cherished field next door now has 19 houses built on it, with double that still to come. And the only access for the 40-ton construction lorries to this new development is along their narrow street.
It didn't have to be like this, because they've got an alternative access point, which is straight through here, which is wide enough. This is acceptable. Why didn't they consider just taking the road round and through onto the site?
An official spokesman from the council said that the council had refused planning permission once before because the access grounds weren't as good and proper ecology studies weren't in place. But when the development company reapplied, they had covered all these points, so there was no reason to refuse it. But the problem is not just accessing the building site. These massive trucks have a daily battle to get down the small residential road that leads into Andy and Dawn's street.
This road is not designed for construction vehicles. It's simple as that. It's not the right access point because These trucks cannot get round that corner safely without mounting the footpath. And if they can't see somebody stood on that corner, then I don't know what would happen. They've collapsed the drains, they've damaged all the footpaths and everything, because these trucks are 40-ton plus.
I mean, I've had at least 4 very close, nearly having the front of my car knocked off, once coming off my own drive, and 3 times on this corner.
The volume of traffic has wreaked havoc.
These guys, they don't live here, so if they see this road clear, straight down. They need to be told daily to have some respect, to slow down.
You draw your curtains in the morning, and you've got truck drivers in and out. They're looking down into your property. They can't help it. We all look around, but it's like an invasion of privacy.
The situation has had a gruelling emotional effect on the family.
My youngest daughter, Megan, doesn't stay home very long now. She gets fed up of the noise. She suffers from migraines. She tends to sleep at my mum's, her friends.
Good boy. It's changed our lives totally in the way we live. I think normality now is going to work and getting away. From being nice and relaxed, within 5 minutes, you could actually be full of anger and rage. It's just like you're being wound up and ready to explode.
But it's Andy who's been hit the hardest.
Makes you think about your health more. Before, everything was so nice anyway. You didn't have to worry about things like we worry about now.
For Andy, 2 years ago, last November, he took a heart attack. He was in hospital for over a week. Luckily, he's controlled by drugs at the moment.
This whole fiasco has affected us that much that we are considering moving. We feel that we're being forced to move because our quality of life here now has declined that much that we don't feel that we want to be here.
On top of all this, nature lovers Andy and Dawn are devastated at the side effects of the development.
We're so used to badgers, foxes, and there's been no care. There's no care given. They just cleared the ground, and it's very sad because they felled lots of trees. They've kept a couple, but a lot of the trees was felled.
An official spokesman from the council said that building houses on Greenland will have some impact on ecology, but they have tried to minimise that impact by erecting bat boxes around the periphery of the site, plus a badger set has been relocated. Reluctantly accepting the development is here to stay, Andy and Dawn hoped there would be some kind of compensation for the upheaval it has caused them.
They've done nothing, they've not offered any compensation, anything whatsoever, to help us pay to have the windows done, to have the floors cleaned a lot more. You see, we've never had to have double glazing, and why should we pay to have to put new windows in? It's costing us for them to make profit.
Neighbour Sally feels defeated.
We're helpless, and it is a case of just saying, we'll just have to live with it. We don't have a choice.
Tony Tubb has lived in his home in East Sussex for 40 years, but after a night out he returned to find his dream house in darkness and within 5 minutes full of smoke. Out of the blue, without there even being a storm, Tony's house had been hit by a huge bolt of lightning.
Suddenly, all I had was what I was standing up in, not even a toothbrush. There was a total feeling of emptiness, and as if, everything had literally gone.
Tony has asked his friend Jock, who's a builder, to take a look at the damage.
I'm quite amazed how the smoke has got absolutely everywhere. It's too dangerous to go up there through the ceiling.
Yeah.
It looks to me as if the whole house has got to be cleaned up, the whole house.
Comprehensive refurbishment, am I right?
Look at all this.
Bathroom.
Yeah, look at that lot.
You can see the smoke damage.
Yeah. Because all this is caused by them vents, and the smoke comes all through the vents.
Oh, I see.
And comes out.
Yes.
Comes all through the walls. That's what does all this damage.
Yeah.
Terrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really bad.
Treasured family photographs, priceless moments in time, all destroyed.
This, for example, perhaps we can clean it up, is Denise's mother with Denise, my wife, has a baby. And that's one typical thing from the loft. I've lost some lovely pictures here, but I think they are, well, irreparable. We've lost a lot of things of great sentimental value. Yeah, it hurts emotionally.
Tony has put in an insurance claim, and the work on his house is set to start very soon. But it could take 7 months to complete, so the insurers have put Tony in temporary accommodation.
I'm very close. I can come into the house, walking distance, 2 or 3 minutes walk. I can come in and I can sit in the house in the sunshine if it's a nice day, and I can get the atmosphere of the house.
Time is said to be a healer, but Tony is still struggling.
I still do feel shell-shocked. I hope when I'm told it's ready for me to go back into is that I can recreate a home. It'll need a lot of work to recreate somewhere that you feel to be home.
Tony is now looking to the future and getting back in his home. But there is one question he'd still like answered.
Well, one could say, why me? Of all houses in Bexhill. Someone said to me, you're more likely to have won the lottery than have your house struck by lightning.
In Somerset, Caroline Cockman's Grade 2 listed property had become a battering ram for countless crashes, scrapes and near misses, resulting in over £30,000 worth of damage to her and her neighbours' properties.
The driver eventually burst through, took all of this wall out here and then came to a stop there.
But when it comes to preventing the problem, Caroline is the one hitting a brick wall.
The vehicle that did this damage, the driver actually got out of his vehicle when he was back there, before he did any damage at all, and came and had a look to decide whether he could fit his way through. And he decided he could, and myself and my neighbour were telling him no, he couldn't. And he was adamant. He had 35 years driving experience. He was going to fit through that gap. He knew better. He proceeded. 10 minutes later, he's calling for a tow truck to be pulled out because he was well and truly wedged.
All the driver could do was sit and wait to be rescued.
So the tow truck took several hours to come. Huge, huge tow truck. And he had to reverse it all the way down from the very, very far end of the lane. And we were cutting branches off trees to actually get him in. And the closest he could get was 60 metres away, around that bend. Connected the back of his tow truck to the back of the lorry and took another, I think it was 2 hours to actually tow him out. Sometimes I want to punch them because they are so stupid. These are professional drivers and you just think, how?
Caroline and her neighbours believe there's one link between all these crashes.
All the collisions we have had, I would say almost without exception, it is with Satnav. If you looked at it on an OS map, you would never turn down Mill Lane, let's put it that way. But because the computer's telling them to turn down Mill Lane, that's what they do.
With some navigation systems showing the lane as a shortcut, Caroline believes the temptation to cut corners is leading drivers astray. And for oversized truckers, the results can be catastrophic.
And this is quite an unusable road. You can get lorries in here, there's plenty of parking places. But Satnav turns them into Mill Lane, which is here. And as they turn into the corner, the lorries can't see the sign. There is a sign, it's adequate, it ticks all the boxes as far as highways are concerned, but the lorries actually do not see it because the sign's obscured with their wing mirrors. And as you're going down, it's getting narrower and narrower, and you would think, as a professional driver, you would start to say, hang on, what am I actually doing here?
But Despite all the warning signs, some are ploughing on regardless. At just 8 feet wide, the road outside Caroline's house marks the point of no return for our offbeat truckers.
I don't know whether it's bravado or if it's just plain stupidity some of the times. Just wish that they'd use their common sense. There's only one outcome if they've actually got to this position. They drive forward and cause damage, or they go backwards and cause damage.
Having been here for over 250 years, so far Caroline's house has stood the test of time, but she's worried.
This house was built in 1760. Its walls are at least 3 feet thick, but that's not to say the constant hitting it, nudging it, etc., the vibrations is not doing damage to the structure of the building. To date, all of the collisions we have had, fortunately, touch wood, have been covered by somebody's insurance. Our insurance company have been very good, but if it gets more frequent or if they think it's a risky property, there may be a point at which they say, well, actually, no, we're not going to insure you.
And Caroline has one clear message to truck drivers and their Satnavs.
It's not governing what you do. It hasn't got to be obeyed at all costs. You can ignore it.
She's determined to continue her fight for better place signs to protect her hamlet.